Hello and welcome to How to Automotive. I'm Brian Essick, and in today's video I'm going to walk you step by step through the process of changing out the AC condenser slash transmission cooler on a 2011 through 2013 Jeep Grand Cherokee, so stay tuned for that. Before I started this job, I went ahead and removed the Freon. I sucked it out with my AC machine. If you guys don't have an AC machine, I recommend you take it down to an automotive repair shop, have them remove the Freon, do the repair, and then after you're done, take it back and have them charge it. This is the AC condenser I use. I will link it up in the description of the video. The first thing we need to do to get it out is to get the bumper cover off. And we're going to start with these moldings here on the sides of the fender here. We're going to drill out these plastic rivets here. You can either try to use side cutters and cut the rivet off, or if that doesn't work, you'll have to use a drill bit and drill the head of the plastic rivet off. So when I was trying to drill out this plastic rivet here, it was spinning on me. So what I did was I grabbed the molding and pulled on it and gave it a little pressure. That tightened the rivet up a little bit and allowed me to drill the head off. Once you get the bottom one drilled out, then you can go ahead and do the top one here. So there's only two plastic rivets that we need to remove, and then a 110mm bolt. Also, I turned the wheel inwards to get to that, made it a lot easier. Once you get the rivets removed, now you can just pull the molding out right here. It just snaps into the side of the fender here. So we don't need to take it all the way off. We just need to pull it off about 3/4 of the way, and it'll kind of flare out of its way here. And we're going to undo the fender here. We're going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side here, drill out the same rivets. There's also going to be a 10mm screw that we need to remove right here at the top of the bumper cover. On the inside of the bumper cover here is going to be the remainder of the plastic rivet. Either you can pull them off with your fingers. If they give you a little trouble, you can use side cutters like this and cut the rivet and go ahead and pull those plastic pieces out and throw those away. We're going to do that on both sides of the vehicle. On most models, they have a fog light. If they do, you need to pull the inner fender liner back right here, reach in here, squeeze the tab, and disconnect the fog lights. We're going to do that on both sides of the vehicle. So pull the fender liners back, disconnect. Now on the bottom side of the bumper cover is going to be some clips. You're going to need to pop those clips out right here. The best way to do that is use some clip pullers like these and pull the clips out. Now on the side of the bumper cover here, you're going to flare it a little bit. It's wrapped around the fender here. So you're going to flare it out like this and then pull, and it'll unclip from the side of the fender. And you're going to work your way towards the front of the grille. It's clipped in right in front of the grille. And also you're going to do the same thing on the passenger side or the opposite side of the vehicle. Flare that out, and now you can just give it a light little tug and pull the bumper cover off. Now you can set the bumper cover off in a safe spot. On newer models, 2014 and newer, you would remove the grille first, but on this case, you remove the bumper cover. So here at the top of the grille, we're just going to pull up right here. They're just clipped on at the top of the core support here, so you're going to pull upwards. So like I said, the top of the grille is clipped onto the top of the radiator core support. At the bottom, there's a 10mm bolt here, and then on the opposite side of the grille, there'll be another 10mm bolt. We need to remove those. Once you get the two fasteners removed, then you can go ahead and just grab the grille from the center and pull it off and set it aside. Next, we need to get the two horns removed and out of the way. So there's a couple bolts here, and we're going to follow the wires here and unclip them from the plastic here. And we're going to remove the two plastic panels on the left and the right side of the condenser here. This is designed to direct the airflow into the radiator and condenser here. So we need to remove these two plastic things. So we're going to unclip the wires and unbolt the horns here and pull off the two plastic moldings here on the left and the right side of the condenser here. Now we need to get these strut braces out of our way. There's a couple of 13mm bolts that we're going to remove at the top and loosen the 8mm bolts down here at the bottom here. So I'm going to remove the 13s and loosen them, and then we're going to swing them off to the left and off to the right. Now we need to get the hood latch out of the way, but it's adjustable, so we're going to mark it to exactly where it's at. So I'm going to mark around the edge of the latch here. That'll give us a reference mark on both sides here, and then also on the bolts here, I'm going to put a little mark on the bottom here. So when we go back together, we can line those marks up and bolt it back up in the exact same position we took it off, and we won't have to mess with the adjustment. Now we need to disconnect the engine oil cooler here. It's clipped onto the front of the condenser here. So there's a couple tabs that we're going to squeeze. So there's one right here and one underneath at the bottom here. We'll squeeze that tab and then pull the oil cooler off the condenser. There's going to be one on each side of it. So you're going to squeeze these tabs and pull the condenser free. So if you look, I'm using my forefinger on the bottom side of the tab, squeezing upwards, and then my thumb on the top and squeezing downwards, and then pull the connectors, or squeeze the connectors and pull the oil cooler off the condenser. So squeeze and pull just like this. You're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So once we get these disconnected from the condenser, we're not going to unbolt it or any further. We're just going to let it hang there. We're not going to disconnect any hoses or anything. We're just going to let it hang in the lower area down there. Now on the driver's side of the condenser here, we're going to remove the 13mm nut here and pull the two AC lines off the condenser here. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, the AC condenser is also a transmission cooler here, and we need to remove these two cooler lines by popping these plastic safety clips off and sliding these plastic covers back. Underneath these little plastic covers is going to be a couple of clips that we need to remove, one in the bottom, one on the top here. To remove these lines, you're going to need a sharp pick, and you're going to reach in here and pick the clips out of the lines, and you can do it from the front like I am here, or you can reach over the back side of the condenser and come from the back side and get those clips off. So you're going to remove the metal clips from the top and bottom transmission cooler lines. The new condenser is going to come with these clips already installed in it. It's a good idea to keep these as backups though. Once you get the two clips removed, you can pull the lines off like this and just push them backwards. Now on the passenger side of the condenser, right where the transmission cooler lines went in, there's a little tab you're going to push up right here and then pull the condenser forward. On the driver's side right here, you're going to squeeze these little tabs here inward and then pull the condenser forward. And that will pop it free. Now you can pull or lean the condenser towards the front of the vehicle and then lift it straight up and out of the vehicle. You want to be careful with the oil cooler down below. You want to use one hand to kind of pull it out of the way. So this is something I like to do. I like to drain the condenser of all the transmission fluid, but I like to measure it. So I'll get a little bucket, turn it upside down, and drain the transmission cooler side. So I do this so when I go to put this back together, I actually pour the amount of fluid that drained out of it back into the new condenser and then put it back in the vehicle. So this is the transmission cooler side of the condenser. You can also flip it over and drain out any oil that came out of the condenser for the AC system, and you could add that back to the new condenser as well. In my case, I virtually got zero AC oil out of it, so I'm not going to add it to my new condenser. The AC oil can also be added when you charge the AC system. On the old condenser is the mounts for the oil cooler bracket. We need to pop that off and transfer it over to the new one. So right here on the back side of it is these little tabs that we need to flare open and pull this plastic clip off on both top and bottom here. So I just used a pick tool, reached in there and flared it. One of the best ways to do is get something behind it, like something like this panel popping tool, and then flare the tab and then pry. We're not worried about damaging the fins or anything because this is the old condenser, so we can go ahead and pry that off. We're going to do this for top and bottom, and then once we get these both pried off on the back side, we're just going to reach around and pull off the clip here. So pull it through like this. So now we need to transfer it to our new condenser, and you need to poke these through the fins of the condenser. So I got it laying face down where the lines and everything face towards the inside of the vehicle, so they're inwards. I took the old condenser and laid it straight on top of it and measured it up. On some condensers, the marks will be there where to poke it through, but on this case there's not, so I'm using a straight pick here, and I'm going to go through the holes on the old condenser and poke it into the new condenser, just into the little fins. You want to make sure that you're poking into the softer fins, not the harder tubes that runs across. If you poke into the tube, you can damage it and cause a leak. So we just want to flare these little fins out just a little bit and just give us a reference mark. Now you can poke the oil cooler bracket through the condenser here in the holes we just made and press them in until they fully seat like this. So we're going to do both of those in the reference marks that we just made. So push them through, and then we're going to flip it over on the opposite side and put the mounting tabs back on there that held them on, that we flared off on the other one. And you should be able to just press those on until they fully seat, and that'll hold the bracket in place onto the new condenser. So we lost a couple ounces of transmission fluid here. I went ahead and poured it back into the new condenser here through the same ports that we drained it out of here. I just used a small funnel to accomplish this and took my time. Before we put the condenser back in, we need to swap out the AC O-rings here and also clean everything up here. As you can see, there's a leak or a stain here. So I'm going to clean all this up and then swap out the O-rings. It should come with your condenser. You definitely do not want to reuse the old O-rings. On the new condenser, right here where the transmission cooler lines, you can see the clips are already installed. They're come with the condenser brand new. You want to leave those in. Now we're going to go ahead and install the condenser back into the vehicle. So we're going to slide it in at an angle like this. Tilt the top back up towards the front of the vehicle. There's just a little seat that the bottom just rests on. And so you'll rotate it in. And then that little plastic tab that held it here in the corner, you'll push it until it clicks on both the left and the right sides. Now we can take the oil cooler here and clip it back into the brackets that we just installed onto the new condenser here. So just line it up and press it in until it clips into place. And as you can see, everything lined up perfectly from our transfer over. Now we can install the AC lines here, put the nut on and tighten this up. I just used a wrench here, tighten it up until it was snug and about a quarter turn more. It doesn't have to be super tight. You want to also make sure that the O-rings did not fall off in the installation of the condenser. Now we're going to install the transmission cooler lines. If you look, you'll notice that they're cone shaped here, and when we push those in, it's going to flare those little clips out of the way. If yours did not come with the new clips, go ahead and install the old clips into the condenser first, and then we'll push the lines in or pull the lines in. So I'm going to line everything up, and I'm going to put one hand on the back side here and push while I pull with my other hand and pull, and you'll hear these things clip in. You want to make sure you feel them fully seat. I know my head's in the way right here, but what I'm doing is pushing with one hand and pulling with the other until the lines fully seat into the condenser. And then from the back side, I'm reaching around here and I'm going to give these lines a tug super hard to make sure that they're not going to pop back out. Make sure that they're fully seated in there. You do not want these transmission cooler lines popping back off. You'll lose all your transmission fluid. If it does, it'll pump it out. So just take your time and make sure that that's fully seated. And mine accidentally unpopped here or disconnected, so I had to push it back into the bracket and make sure everything was secure. Don't forget to pull the little plastic safety caps and pop those back into place as well. Now you can swing the strut braces back into place. Go ahead and tighten those up on the 13 millimeters and the 8 millimeters on the bottom here. Put the hood latch back into place. Line up your reference marks. Now we're going to work on these plastic moldings that went on the side here. You want the L-shaped portion of it facing towards the front of the vehicle where the wiring harness went through that little slot. So now we're going to slide it in here, and you need to slip the wiring harness back through the groove on the plastic molding here. They are different between the left and right, so you want to keep track of that when you do this job. So now I'm going to put the wiring harness through the slot and then feed it down into the position where it went right here. And it takes a little finesse and wiggling and angling it to get it to go in there. And once it's fully in there and seated, you'll see where the ambient air temperature sensor clipped in. You'll clip that back into place. And then the horn here, so you'll flip the horn up. Once you get it in there, the horn will flip up, and then they had a little tab at the top right here where the wiring pushed through, and that held it in place. Now we're going to go ahead and stab the opposite side here. So we'll take the plastic molding, wrap it around the wiring harness here, or through the little slot. Once we get that seated, then we'll feed it down in next to the condenser and make sure it sits flush. Then we can flip up our horn with the little clip here that held it into place, clip it in place, and then remount the horn. Once the horn brackets are remounted and tightened up on both left and right side, now we can go ahead and take the grille here and we're ready to install it. So we're just going to line it up with the front of the headlights and stuff here. And at the bottom, you'll see the 10 millimeter bolts where they'll line up on the bottom. And then the top will flare it up a little bit and then press the top of the grill into it. It has a little clips here that clips into the top of the core support, so you just want to bang those down into the clips. Now you're ready to install the two 10mm bolts, one on the left and one on the right side of the grill. Now we're going to work on getting the bumper cover back on. So these little tabs here on the front of it slides underneath the grill here. You see the little slots here. So you'll line those up, and then these here will snap into the side of the fender. As you see here, I did it all by myself, but if you have a partner or somebody to help you, it does help out. It makes it a little easier. So I'm going to line up the little tabs on the front of the grill like I told you here. Slide those in, and then I'm going to pick a side and go around and then work it and install it onto the fender here, and then give it a little tap, and then the little clips on the bumper will clip into the fender. So you tap those in, line everything up like this. Once you get everything lined up, you just give it a little tap with your hand until it pops into place. Just want to make sure all the lines are lined up and all the clips are clipped in. Now we can clip in the little clips on the bottom side of the bumper here. So put the clips back in, push them in, push the tabs in. Now on the left and right side, we're going to flare the fender flares back, plug in the fog lights here, so clip those in, like I said, both left and right side. Now you can line up the fender moldings here with the clips on the side of the fender here, and then press those back into place, pop them back into place. And once you get that all popped into place, I used plastic clips like this here to reinstall that instead of the rivets. You can also go out and find plastic rivets if you want, but these work really well. So I went and punched these through. Make sure you pump them in till they're flush. At the top of the fender, there's a 10mm bolt. You want to reinstall that or screw. You're going to do all this for both sides of the vehicle. Once you get that done, now you can charge your AC system up. If you paid another shop to do this, now you can drive the vehicle back to that shop, have them recharge the AC system. I will link up the condenser and some of the tools that I used in this video. I'm Brian Esser from How To Automotive. I'd like to thank you guys for watching, encourage you to subscribe, invite you to head over to the howtoautomotive.com website for more valuable videos like this.